We're back with Top Tech, where we will be discussing our analysts' finest recent articles on Verdict, Media's network of B2B websites. I'm Emma Sturdee, and I'm joined here with Patrick and Hugo.
Hello again.
At Global Data Thematic Intelligence, we track over 100 tech, industry, ESG, and macro themes impacting all major sectors.
Right, guys, how's it feel? We're back as a trio from our quite extended hiatus. How are we doing?
Yeah, it feels good to be back.
Yeah, I missed you guys. I think for me, we must start with an article which turned out quite prophetic.
Yes, well, apparently, when I write, the government pays attention. Seems I've got more influence on government policy than the entirety of the parliamentary opposition at the moment. It appears my article about AI-generated deepfakes has made its way into policy. Obviously not the actual article, but I like to think I'm a bit of a policy influencer now.
Yes, it does seem you are, Patrick. And I'm sure your adoring fans on LinkedIn can't wait to hear your next prediction. But for now, back to the article.
So the Prime Minister announced on the 16th of April that the government is looking to criminalise the creation of explicit deepfakes with their amendment to the Criminal Justice Bill, which will build on existing offences against women and girls. So really that's what it's all about. It's a general piece of legislation that protects everybody, but protects women and girls most because they are victims of this kind of thing to such an overwhelming degree.
Yeah, and I imagine that there have been plenty of people who have come back with, but what about men and boys, as if that's the point.
Oh, yeah, and I've been really trying to do my best to not fight with people on LinkedIn because some people just simply don't get it. But the fact of the matter is that End Violence Against Women Coalition did a study on this. 99.9% of sexually explicit deepfakes online depict women. So clearly this issue massively disproportionately affects women. And some people feel the need to make women's issues about men, which is always just so inappropriate and really annoying. But besides the point, this legislation is great. Definitely an important step forward for the UK.
Yeah, and am I right in saying that actually sharing these images is already a criminal offence?
Yeah, no, it is. The Online Safety Act from last year already punishes sharing deepfakes. The Act itself specifically deals more with protecting children online, but its protections about sharing deepfakes apply to everyone.
You must feel pretty happy right now, surely, Patrick. Legislating on this stuff is exactly what you were talking about in your article, especially in relation to the news of explicit deepfakes of Taylor Swift. Do these proposed rules feel like the kind of thing you were after when you were writing?
In a way, yeah. This kind of legislation is really all a government can do if it only wants to deal with the individuals responsible for creating these kinds of things. So it's definitely a good thing to criminalise it all. So unlimited fines, criminal record, jail time if the images are shared, that sort of thing. And the rules do address one of the things I was talking about, that there should be a much greater focus on making the internet a safer place for everyone, especially women and girls, to be as a priority, rather than simply on the political implications of people being able to fake like a whole speech using generative AI tools, as has been the case in media so far.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Thank you, Patrick. You also mentioned that when you search Sora OpenAI, which is OpenAI's text-to-video AI model, not a single one of Google's top 100 articles mentioned the risk posed to women and girls, that it all focus on the political implications. Is that right?
It was actually quite distressing, actually. Like, don't get me wrong, the political implications of deepfakes to influence voters and spread misinformation are important, like really important. But I think we have our priorities the wrong way around if that's all we're focusing on.
I agree, and that is such an important point.
So I'm uncertain about how effective enforcement of this kind of legislation will be, but I'm very much on board with the direction this legislation is going in. I feel listened to by the government, actually, even though obviously I know that I specifically haven't actually been listened to.
But obviously this only deals with the front end of the issue, right? Like, it doesn't deal with the real root of the issue here.
Yeah, completely. And to continue with the software jargon, this legislation doesn't actually address the back end of the issue, like the real underlying problem that creates such a hostile environment. Fundamentally, these images are created to humiliate the victim, to scare them, and in the mind of a creator, to devalue them. And that last point is really key, that this all comes from a really misogynistic place, and one that just doesn't respect the agency of women and girls at all.
Yeah, and that ultimately was your point, wasn't it? That this stuff isn't new and has always been about men trying to shame women and exert power over them. And even women against other women, to be honest. I think you were absolutely right to say that if we actually want to tackle this problem of deepfakes, we need some serious introspection about our values in society.
Yeah, definitely. And not to open Pandora's box, but we should also think about what role education plays in this. What kind of role teachers and parents should play.
I mean, definitely agree on that one. I think teachers have got more than enough on their plate as it is, but it is still important to teach our children the right things if we want to progress and get anywhere as a society. But yes, as you say, best not to get too much into that right now.
Before we move on, we should mention that we have a lot of content available about the tech associated with this topic. We've got reports on AI, edtech, and tech regulation. We've got a newsletter on generative AI that we've spoken about before on the show with Beatrice and Charlotte from our tech team, and plenty of other content.
And if you're interested in how different governments approach regulating technology and social media platforms, you can find a link to our most recent tech regulation report in the description below. We also have some upcoming AI governance reports that will also address regulation around deepfakes and creation of generative AI models.
Yes, and Emma, your article also links to AI, and maybe more AI and animal welfare than AI governance.
Yeah, I guess so.
Your article seems to use rats, not everyone's favourite rodent, as a means of demonstrating the continuing importance of biological rather than artificial intelligence.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to be so real with you right now. I hate rats. Pigeons of the ground in my mind. But your article made me feel quite in awe of them, actually. Your article about how rats are maybe better than robots for certain tasks like landmine clearing and even earthquake rescue really changed my views.
Agreed, they are not everyone's favourite pet. But I find it quite interesting to look at it, especially because in Global Data's Future of Work report, it describes how digital transformation is really reshaping industries, and we see new technological disruption every day. Many are rightly concerned with how the traditional rat race will be changed by technologies such as AI and automation, but the real rats are not quite as concerned.
Yeah, and from what I read, this Belgian non-profit Apopo is doing with rats is quite astounding. The fact that they can clear, the space the size of an entire tennis court in half an hour, which would usually take humans with a metal detector 4 or so days, provides a lot of promise for what these creatures' career prospects might be.
Oh yeah, I mean, they've worked all over the place in Zimbabwe, Angola, Cambodia, and they even helped clear Mozambique of landmines. But this is not, Patrick, where these rats' hard skills on their CVs stop. In 2021, Apopo equipped these hard workers with high-tech backpacks and started training them to search for survivors in the rubble after an earthquake. With their soft skills of natural curiosity, a passion for exploring, and not easily getting stuck, it will make it very hard for robots to replace these rodents anytime soon.
So it turns out that the best thing to do in an earthquake might potentially be to stick some cheese in your pocket.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
One thing I wanted to ask is how much all of this costs.
Well, they cost about €6,000 per rat to train and care for, which is more affordable and safer than previous methods.
Yeah, they do seem pretty safe in their jobs.
Yeah, but I think if you think about how it's, rats' innate abilities to adapt, smell and explore is what's actually keeping their jobs safe from robots, you can make the comparison with us humans. Us humans, as a species, we also have innate abilities that really shouldn't be overlooked as we move forwards towards digital transformation. For example, humans can endlessly adapt, and we also have empathy, which are two very important skills. While AI, on the other hand, for example, relies purely on the data and programs it has been trained on and does not understand human emotion.
Yeah, I agree. Understanding human emotion will always be an important asset.
And, as AI surrounds us more and more, we must not forget our innate talents. Similar to, how the high-tech backpacks are allowing the rats to diversify their roles and move into disaster rescue, our jobs will also change with technological advancement. But before we finish, we will discuss our honourable mentions. And just so you know, all this content is available for free across the Verdict Media's network of B2B websites.
So one that I'd like to put forward as my honourable mention, it's one that came out recently, was Come Together Right Now over ESG.
That was a good one. My personal favourite, I think, was another creepy crawly one, which was invertebrate technology could worm its way into all sectors.
My personal favourite would have to be Let's Get It Started in here, the DOJ and AI regulation. And throughout, it has a lot of Black Eyed Peas references just to get the viewers excited.
Thanks for listening. Check out these articles and join us next month for another episode of Top Tech. And the next episode in this series will be on telecom APIs, and don't miss our China expert, Rory Green, who's going to talk about the current China outlook.